Hello and welcome to World Building Essentials and Exercises. Here on the WBEE, we are talking about dragons. We're going to be talking about dragons for the foreseeable future. Get used to it. It's okay though, dragons are cool. I did a little show on world building with dragons in mind. It's kind of the anchor to this playset. And today we're going to think about the dragon kingdom of Zaabrey. This is mostly for Dungeons and Dragons 5.24 rule set, but these basic principles are going to apply to anything that creatively includes dragonkind. I'm Lewis Nichols, and a pretty big chunk of my very first campaign long ago had to do with elves versus dragons. It's about what you would expect out of a first campaign. It was clunky. It was ill-conceived in many ways. But we all had fun, and that is the most important part. So, in memory of my good friend John Pritchard and his elven fighter Yeagar, let's get into it. We're going to be following an adventuring team today. The Badasses of Darton, or BAD for short. They are a team tasked with exploration and potentially diplomacy. The mountains to the north of their home lie beyond a potentially difficult river crossing and a significant desert. Now, certainly there have been adventurers that have traveled up here before, but very rarely, and they have never really found enough financial gain to encourage others to follow. BAD, our team, has a core group of 5 5th level individuals. There's 2 marshals, a paladin and a fighter. There are 2 arcanists, a sorlock and a wizard. And then they have their cleric of the nature variety. However, they do travel with a larger group, especially on missions like this. They're going to bring on 2 horse-pulled wagons and a crew to handle them. They're going to hire a cook, and they're going to bring on a tracker. Yeah, a ranger. Finally, they have what amounts to a first-level party at their disposal. This 7-man group includes the paladin squire, the party bookkeeper, which happens to be a bard, 2 barbarians they brought along just for the mission, and 3 wagoneers who have been party adjacent since 2nd level. It's completely up to you and your players. It's completely up to you and your players how to handle party size. But I've always envisioned these fighting teams, these expeditions, going in much larger groups than just the little band of adventurers. Now, they don't follow the party into danger. They're not PCs. They're not adventurers. They're not DM NPCs or DM PCs or yeah, that's the word. But they can form a strong base camp and provide abilities that the party lacks. For instance, the tracker and a good cook. Depending upon what survival rules you follow, they can keep that strong base camp and improve it much quicker than the party could. And it saves the party the time of having to go out and do the menial work. And adventurers are rich. They can afford to hire these groups. They can maintain squires. There's the Bastion rules now. Followers are a thing again. You instantly pick them up. Start picking them up at around 5th level. And I like that. It makes sense. In my head, for most campaigns. So, the party crosses the border river. That is a skills challenge. They need 6 out of 7 checks for complete success. It's going to allow them to pass without consequence. Now, catastrophic failure, let's say 5 fails, that's going to lead to a loss of wagons, possibly personnel, and a whole lot of time. They might very well have to start all over again, going back to a town to resupply. The party decides that they're going to exchange resources for 2 successes and bonuses for a few of the other checks. This isn't things like guidance, because that's basically a free cantrip, But in this case, it's talking about using up spell slots. Uh, Even with this, they still are only going to make 5 out of 7 checks, so they're going to lose a couple days for some basic repairs and to regroup. Eventually, we are going to talk about these skill challenges, how I envision them, although I'm very much still kind of developing that as over time. But we're going to get there. Once I have something good, I'm going to share it with you. All right. In a related encounter, a pair of dragonflesh abominations wander into their camp as they're getting settled. These are CR6 monstrosities out of Fizban's. I mean, if you're going to use dragons, why exclude resources? Fizban's Treasury of Dragons is a great source of inspiration for any dragon-heavy adventure. Now, the real question is, why am I calling this a related encounter? Why is this related to the skill challenge? Yes, English. It's my second language, right after babbling. So, as I mentioned, we're exploring how we're going to eventually make skill challenges a regular thing in my system. It's going to end up being a video someday. Like I said, when I get something good, I'll let you know. I find that parties often bypass a lot of risky dice rolls by using spells and abilities. Makes the whole thing very simple, if they're willing to use all those resources, especially the higher the party level gets. Climb is no big deal if you burn a levitate. If the druid shapeshifts and flies across the danger zone, again, much easier. So the threat here, especially the way I tend to run things, where you don't have multiple encounters in a day, is skill challenges just become, whatever, we use a bunch of stuff and it's done. The way to hold them accountable is to occasionally mix a random encounter into the mix. That's why it's related, because the second encounter, the random encounter, its outcome is going to be very determined by the initial encounter. Make it a little bit tougher fight, something that the party's going to want to use those resources on. And that way, it makes it a tougher fight, and maybe the next time the party is more careful about expending lots of resources in something like this. I wouldn't do it every time. All you need to do is once or twice. And there's a good reason for it. There's a precedent for it. There's in-game logic. And that's basically, hey, if I just went through this big rigmarole of causing a lot of commotion, crossing a river with a couple of wagons and, all the things involved in making this happen, on this border territory where usually there's not much going on, you're going to raise a ruckus, and it's going to attract, potential local monsters. So it's very easy to connect it all together. If you really want to be mean, have the random encounter during the skills challenge and just, throw a wrench in everything. Pure chaos. That's the way to DM. Just kidding. Think about what you're doing. Despite a few delays, the party makes its trek to the north. Beyond the river, beyond the desert, it is believed that a glacier has collapsed over the last few decades. And with that obstacle gone, they are hoping they can find a route. With this obstacle gone, the powers who sent Bad on their mission believe the way is now open to more distant lands. They hope to establish trade routes and forge alliances with these new distant powers. Now, without knowing it, the party passes through the territory of 2 dragons on their final approach to the mountain. The red dragons, and by the way, they're pretty much all going to be red dragons today. Anyway, so we have an ancient, he's a loner, Saldwin Scorchwing, and an adult female, Boondecrow Hotspring. They hunt throughout the desert on up into the foothills, and sometimes they range all the way down to the big river. There are others around, but much younger. You only going to want to detail so much. Make sure you get the big guys documented. Now, these are the barbarians of the local dragon population. They don't want anything to do with civilized life. And they only marginally honor the monarchy that we will discuss later. At some point, you guys are going to have to tell me whether you prefer the face-to-face recording or recording like this when I'm actually more dedicated to the script. I don't know why you would like the face-to-face stuff. It's a lot more sloppy. There's crazy segues. There's ums and ehs, and there's squeaking chairs. It's chaos. But maybe you embrace the chaos. Now, since we are gonna switch over and just record some stuff here a little bit, let's get to it. Last word on these desert dragons. They want nothing more than to declare open season on the human nations to the south. But Saldwin owes the crown for past favors, and he refrains for now. Now, as the party moves to the pass, they find it a place of striking beauty. The high mountain peaks, snow-capped, the glacier sitting way up above, far receded from its former advancements. It's a place of beauty, of nature. There's an inspiring vista. There are the plains and the desert beyond. Nothing lacks for grandeur. Their first encounter with the monarchy of Zaabrey are chain gangs working to establish a wagon-ready road down into the lowlands. These are a mix of all your common species, along with kobolds. Now, there are also kobolds in the labor pool who are not prisoners. The entire operation is about 150 laborers, and overseen by a band of half-dragons and a red-hued dragonborn named Zephyrus. Zephyrus jokes the roads to make it easier for those in the south to take their tributes to the capital. Ultimately, he's just doing what he's told. My employers don't explain their orders to me any more than I do to my company. For all I care, it's a job with the sole intent to provide a task that these wretched beings might work themselves to death at. Looking up the mountain, maybe a few perception checks, some investigation. The glacier, as mentioned, is still visible way up there, but it's melted back far enough so that the road passes on to a higher road. 2 days' travel leads the party to an ancient bridge that must have once been covered in ice. Parts were destroyed, but have recently been repaired. A squadron of 25 kobolds are camped nearby and demand a toll, but the paladin negotiates a call for 100 gold pieces, all the way down to 5. Yeah, well, stick to the road and check in at the castle. Better be civil about it, no lies. Lies get you put on the chain gang. The party is becoming concerned, but they do continue. The nature of this land is also becoming evident. It is a distinctly dragon-themed part of the world. The next day, they see their first group that is. A large dragon flies with 4 smaller ones. They move in front and behind peaks on their patrol. It's unlikely the party is unobserved, but the flight does not land to confront them. Later that day, they find a side trail with 5 half-dragons guarding it. No, this is Mount Rivos. Daka, bachelor of the mountain, lives up there, and he's not going to be interested in you. What you saw was Gildados, the Longtail, and her family. How many dragons live around these mountains, you ask? Ha! Enough that your whole entourage there wouldn't make enough stew for all of them to get a taste. The castle at High Point is the party's first official interaction. It's an ancient, sprawling fortress that utterly controls the mountain pass, causing trouble would bring down fire from dozens of mounted crossbows. That's a weapon classification that I use. Usually it fits between heavy crossbow and ballista. The party is held in a courtyard for over an hour. This is done so that most spells will expire, though some stealth might still allow a recast. When they are questioned, it starts with all the usual stuff. What is the reason for your visit? Explain any magical auras that might be observed. Do you carry items you intend to sell? It might be taxable. Do you carry currency in excess of 500 gold? If so, why? Do you intend to purchase any trade goods? You will be issued travel papers and you will present them on demand. Failure will result in arrest. This applies to every individual in your party. Then more questions, more specific about where they are from. What is the name of your nation? Who's the king? What? Explain your form of government. Is there a military? How extensive is it? How is it organized? How is trade conducted? And the questions go on for quite some time. While no dragons are part of the interview process, it's fairly easy to figure out the 7 towers above the castle are dragon residences. Only 5 are occupied. If the party engages socially with the soldiers or staff in general, they'll find out that the towers are usually the home of young adults or full adults. If the party turns on the charm, they might confirm the ruling monarchy is in fact a family of dragons, and almost all the dragons around are going to be reds, though a few blacks and other special cases exist. In their travels, the party encounters regimental mounds, the home of kobolds by the thousands. Each of these are capable of fielding fighting corps of from 800 to 1,200 soldiers. Some of them specialize as archers, scouts, cavalry, infantry, and so on, but they are able to support themselves as independent forces. For instance, the Plowhide Dragoon is made up of 400 heavy cavalry, 200 mounted skirmishers, 150 infantry to protect their baggage train, and more light infantry to guard the animals. These are a chaotic evil people, but maintain a highly efficient military at the same time. They are selfish, but they are not stupid. As the party makes their way into the capital, As the party makes their way into the capital, red dragons have become a common sight. They meet 3 on their trip. 1 tried to shake them down on the road, but again, the paladin prevented any significant financial loss. 2 later encounters were all about the curiosity, as dragon nobles just wanted to chat with the new people in town. Most of the population of these lands, they're not dragons. They're humans, orcs, they're gnomes and tabaxi. They exist in abundance, a population in the high hundreds of thousands. They make up a poor middle class, and they are clearly disadvantaged. The dragonborn who live among them, they're spread out through all the different social classes, but they are clearly advantaged at all levels of society. This is evident in the written laws, the courts, the rights that they have. The royal city of Meraway is built with enormous creatures in mind. The roads are wide, except for the ghettos. Most of the street-facing businesses in the central city are open-faced to allow interactions with dragons that will not fit inside the buildings. There are a few great halls big enough to accommodate a few dragons, but most public entertainment revolves around a few open-sky theaters. A scenario like this is a real way for the party to influence the world that they live in. As a DM, I would have the scenario set up where the dragons are going to be prone to invade. Their mission would be doing a lot of damage, doing a lot of pillaging, and they're not trying to take over. They're trying to enforce a peace deal that includes establishing very lopsided trade and tribute. Now, in setting up, as I think this through, I'm going to create a list of ways that the party might figure out the plans. It doesn't have to be easy for them, but there's going to be ways if they are proactive in their spying and diplomatic missions. But a list of ways that they could figure this out, and a list of possible solutions, and a list of ways that they can make it worse. If the party goes murder hobo, I mean, that's just all the more cause for war, all the more reasoning that that the dragon monarchy can call these guys the enemy. The party, your party, I mean, they might figure this all out, or they might fail. And either way leads into more interesting adventures and an escalation of the campaign as a whole. I'd probably put it in some kinds of point system so that it's accomplishing certain goals, push back the invasion date, and enough points it would be called off indefinitely. Maybe they find a way to cause a powerful kobold regiment to implode in infighting. Maybe they convince a royal cousin that he can personally become more powerful by forging separate trade agreements with the governments back home. Maybe they can fake intel so that other threats against their kingdom seem more imminent. In our scenario, we're going to let bad be the heroes of the story. They manage to impress the dragons with the military might of their home and dissuade an immediate invasion. They're going to make a few friends. They're going to exploit some rivalries. They also make contact with a band of insurgents tired of being the lowest reptiles on the food chain. They convince some kobolds to join, not necessarily join their cause, but just be a problem. Kobolds are people, not cannon fodder. There's all kinds of ways you can go with this. That great philosophic point about kobolds is my last for the day. I hope I inspired you. Leave a comment and tell me about your dragons. I want to know. I would love to have a long, elaborate conversation with somebody in the comments. I was thinking about live shows. Haven't done one of those for a while. You can leave it in the comments as well. Most of my live shows is really mostly me just talking, and it ends up getting posted. It's good for the channel in ways, but I so far haven't got a lot of interaction. But probably haven't tried enough either. You can push me that direction if you want to leave a comment, and what time's good for you, how we could make this work, some kind of regular world building chat. You guys are all amazing people living in two worlds, dealing with real life concerns, and at the same time managing fantasy lands. It takes talent. I'm impressed. You guys are on top of it. I'm super glad that we could spend a little time together, and I hope you all have a great rest of the day. Cheers.